A brutal double murder has taken place. The killer left no witnesses, dropped no weapon, and left behind exactly 0 physical evidence for the police to find. By every practical measure, he has committed the perfect crime. Legally speaking, he is in the clear. The killer can walk the crowded streets of St. Petersburg without drawing a single look of suspicion from the people passing by him. He committed these murders to test a specific ideology. He calls it the Napoleon theory. The core idea is that certain extraordinary men possess an inherent right to step entirely over basic human morality if it serves a higher purpose. But the theory fails him immediately upon execution. Instead of feeling like a god who dictates who lives and dies, he feels hollowed out. He feels like a ghost. His body starts to reject his own actions. He loses the ability to eat. He suffers from severe insomnia, lying awake in a cold sweat. And worse, he develops a terrifying compulsion to wander back to the exact room where he committed the murders. He successfully outsmarted the entire legal system, yet he is trapped. He has locked himself inside an inescapable psychological prison of his own making. Enter Detective Porfiry Petrovich. Porfiry has absolutely no physical proof tying our killer to the crime. What he does have is a deep, surgical understanding of criminal psychology, and he uses that insight as his primary weapon. Porfiry employs an interrogation technique that relies entirely on anxiety. He avoids asking direct questions. Instead, he engages the suspect in casual conversation, letting the killer's own paranoia drive the dialogue. He compares this to a moth entering a wide circular orbit around a candle. The criminal's guilt forces them into a tighter orbit. The silence drives them insane, spiraling inward to subconsciously incriminate themselves until they collide directly with the fire. But the detective isn't the only source of pressure. The author, Fyodor Dostoevsky, deliberately surrounds his killer with 2 dark ideological mirrors. They reflect the killer's grand theory back at him. The first mirror is a businessman named Luzhin. Luzhin operates strictly on the philosophy of rational self-interest. Help yourself first, and society benefits. Looking at Luzhin, the killer sees his own grand theory stripped of its romantic veneer. It is nothing more than naked greed wearing a suit. The second mirror is Svidrigailov. He has achieved the complete moral freedom the killer dreamed of, committing terrible acts while feeling 0 guilt. But that total detachment leaves his soul a barren wasteland, ending in a suicidal, crushing emptiness. This forces a terrifying realization. The path of the extraordinary man only leads to 2 possible destinations. You either become a petty fraud or a hollow walking corpse. Then there is Sonya. She is a destitute young woman, forced into prostitution to keep her family from starving. According to the killer's cold, rational logic, she is entirely worthless, a person easily stepped over for the greater good. Yet she presents a glaring contradiction. She has endured far greater suffering than he has, carrying a heavy societal sin. Her spirit remains completely unbroken. A murderer and a prostitute sit together in the darkness of a cramped room. A single candle burns between them, illuminating a worn Bible. They are reading a specific passage from the Gospel of John. It is the story of Lazarus, detailing exactly how a dead man rises from his grave. Raskolnikov is Lazarus. He lies rotting inside a tomb built entirely out of his own ideology, waiting to see if a soul that has killed itself can live again. The psychological weight finally breaks him. He walks into a police station, confesses to the murders, and accepts a sentence of 8 years of hard labor. The environment drastically shifts. He leaves behind the dark, claustrophobic alleys of St. Petersburg for the harsh, bright, and wide-open frozen expanse of the Siberian landscape. 8 years of hard labor is the state's price, but the legal confession alone leaves his soul untouched. In the prison camp, he remains cold, frozen by the same pride that drove the blade. His intellectual pride only shatters on a routine workday, when he looks up and sees Sonya waiting for him in the freezing cold. In that exact moment, he falls heavily to his knees in the snow and finally weeps. True human existence is not measured by the power to bypass morality. It is measured by your ability to survive your own mind long enough to learn how to love.